dream.
So how was this week for you?
Solid, another solid week by the kids. Doesn't sound like a broken record when I say that, but it was good. They're good focus. They're excited about an opportunity to go play, and a lot of them get to go home and play. So it's an exciting time for them, no doubt. And got this practice underneath their belt. Come out tomorrow and sharpen up one more time and get them playing.
What are you kind of seeing from USC as you kind of dove more into film study?
Well, obviously, SC, the obvious things are they're extremely talented all the way through the team, and which they are every single year, I'm sure. I've only had an opportunity to play them once, and they were very talented on that day too. So, but they, the quarterback's an elite player. He's got some very good people around him. They want to be able to run the ball, and I think they do a nice job in that area. Defensively, it's a very good, solid scheme by a veteran coordinator who's done it for a long, long time, and again, some good players around him, and they're extremely solid on special teams. Baxter, I think, is one of the best special teams guys in the country, and he does a tremendous job. So it's a well-rounded team, very worthy of their ranking and all the things that have been coming their way. There's no doubt. They play good football. So yeah, we're excited to play against these guys. It's a great opportunity, again, like I said earlier.
Can you talk a little bit about Ronald Jones and Sam Darnold, just what those two guys present as from a defensive standpoint?
Well, there's those guys, and then there's a whole bunch of other guys around them that are very good players. I think they do a very good job on the offense side of the ball, getting the ball into their playmakers' hands, and it's obviously that is a priority, and it's something that they work on very hard, and it shows up on game day. So there's a lot of weapons. Those two young men are obviously extremely talented kids, and there's a lot of those other ones that are out there that has a very good supporting cast. And I think they have a good balance of running, throwing the football, and there's good players in all those spots, and those two are special.
You're pretty beat up on their offensive line. Does that give you guys any sort of opportunity, do you think? Or?
There's young players in there. We know exactly who those young guys are that are coming in through the recruiting process, and they're very, very good players. So they'll walk in there physically. They shouldn't have a problem, walking in there and physically handling the situation. It's a great challenge for us to match up against another big, strong front. It doesn't really matter what guys go in there. They got big, strong kids who come in, and I'm sure they'll expect them to play at a high level. And who knows where those injuries are. Who's going to play, who's not going to play. We're not really worried about that. We're just going in knowing that what their schemes are, and whoever is in that helmet across the way will play against.
Obviously, you saw some dynamic playmakers against Washington last week as well. Does that prepare you at all for this game? When
Who was that? Did you say it first?
With Browning and Pettis,
yes.
You saw some dynamic playmakers. So how does that prepare you for this week?
Yeah, well, pretty much just like it is every week, right? The week before it was Luke and all his gang. So there's dynamic playmakers every single week, and we know we've played against some very talented players, and we've played well at times and haven't played so well at times. So in this league, you're going to get every single week there's going to be some exceptional next level players, and this week is no different.
Coach Clune mentioned yesterday the defense gaining confidence in the first half. Have you seen that confidence transition over into practice this week?
Yeah, I think they've practiced well. And anytime you can put success out there on the field like they had in the first half of the Washington game, I think it helps kids. There was it's not what you drop on the board. It's how it's executed on game day, and I think they do gain confidence from those situations. And when they feel it work instead of just see it at practice work or see it on the board work, it does give them a little bit of confidence. And again, they practice well, and they're excited about the opportunity. I think they're executing the tweaks to the scheme this week fairly well also. So we've got one more day to clean that up.
You able to give Thomas a few more touches, planning to use him a little bit more, and how's Ryan doing? Is he sort of getting back after last week's injury?
Yeah, we'll see on Ryan. If he's ready to go, he'll go, and that's one thing that we can all guarantee. If he has an opportunity to play, trust me, he wants to play in every game he can. And it's nice to have Thomas. It's nice to have Trey. It's nice to have AP. All those kids are out there, and they're all needed in this league. There's backs cycle through there just like at every position. So it's important to have all of them. And like I said before, I'm excited to see Thomas get out and go.
Saw Jake was out here today. How good is it just to have him back, and just have him around the squad?
It's great to have him back, and you'll see a smile on his face. And I've tried to text back and forth with him at least every other day, if not every day. And we'd like to see him out here every day. And he's getting closer to being out here every day with us. But to have him out here today, I think it's really good for the kids to see him and be out here with us. And I think I know it's great for Jake. But he had a smile on his face, and he's progressing. His mental attitude is very good, which is key.
What was there just kind of going on about what is he kind of in your guys' text messages and whatnot, have you guys just kind of, how's he been, and is he kind of taking this stride for stride?
My text messages to him is just make sure he knows that whatever he needs, I'll be there, regardless of the time of day or whatever the scenario is. And Jake is a young man that is very well equipped to take care of himself. There's no doubt about that, but it's important that he knows that if there's anything that we can do, we're going to be there to help him, and just ask him how he's doing. That's about the long and the short of it. And Jake, as you know, you've interviewed him, Jake's not a man of many words, so and his texts are usually not too long either, which is good. I appreciate that about him.
Having a few key injuries on the defense and specifically the corner position, who have you seen step up in that position?
Well, Isaiah's done a nice job. Obviously coming in there and getting it done. I really thought Sean Wilson played very well last week. I was impressed with his toughness, his knowledge of the scheme. He's really turned himself into a good player out there for us, and he's a key to that whole scenario. And those young corners are hopping in and doing what they can be doing. Kyle's doing a nice job too. Kyle is still a kid that's played corner for really less than a year now, and he's forced into action. And his ability to want to study, to work hard before practice, after practice, look at the film, get in there with Coach Hall. I see him all the time in there talking about practice and game, and so they're highly invested and want to continue to get better, that whole young group, and they need to, because that's what we have.
Darnold's throwing a lot of interceptions for an elite quarterback. What are you seeing there? Is he trying to make too much happen, or can you tell what's...
Well, I think there's been some really nice plays made on the ball, in some situations. He trusts his arm, and I think elite quarterbacks are going to trust their arm in tight windows, and a lot of times that's paid off for him, and a couple times it hasn't paid off for him. And I couldn't tell you from their scheme exactly what they think or how they're going about it. I know he's has thrown some interceptions, but in my mind he is an elite quarterback with his arm, and with his mind and with his legs.
Forgive my past knowledge. Is this your first time as a coach going down to the Coliseum?
It is, yeah, first time for me. So, been a lot of places, haven't been there, so scratch this one off.
You mentioned Jake, and it's always tough to lose starting quarterback. How are you feeling about your depth at quarterback at this point?
Well, we Connor's there, Aiden's there, and that's where we're at. They were both recruited here to be prepared to play when the opportunity presented itself, and obviously it's Daryl's first man up right now, and Connor would be the next guy up, and Aiden after that. So, it's those kids are working hard. They're plugging away to get themselves in a position to be able to go. And I think Connor's handled it well. He transitioned from scout team, obviously moved himself back over, and he was, always within the scheme. He was always in the quarterback meeting room, so he'll be ready as needed.
Obviously, the season is in a tough part of the schedule. You've talked about it a lot this week with the top 25s. What is, I guess, the top priority, considering it's obviously not been the start to the season that you wanted? So when you go down to face this USC team, what's the top focus for you?
Well, for myself, my message to the team is to fight the next day, like we've talked about. I think that's important for this team right now. And also on top of that, this week we've talked about our ability to be able to put a full team effort together is going to be key. All three phases. There's going to be ups and downs in a game, but you want to see consistency from all three phases for all four quarters. And if we can do that, then we'll start to get the results that we want. I truly believe that, but we have to be able to get that done.
Your punt game has given you an ability to